Welcome. It's another edition of Coffee with the Goose. You know, we talk about things that are interesting, fascinating, and irritating. And this show will be fascinating to say the least. We're going to talk politics for once, but don't get ahead of me here. I'm not going to give my opinion because that's a dangerous game, no matter what country you're in. Anyhow, let's start as we always do with a little coffee. My Java, as you know, very strong, just like my opinion, and got some creamer in there to make it sweet, just like me. All right, you guys saw this one coming. Bongbong is the new president of the Philippines. We knew this was coming. He is a master of social media. He knows, just like all good politicians do, how to manipulate the public opinion of them and put themselves in a very favorable light. And he did that very well and won in a landslide. Now, who is Ferdinand Marcos Jr.? Well, as you know, or hopefully you know a little bit of history, his dad, Ferdinand Marcos, was the former president of the Philippines from 1965 until 1986, and there's a lot of baggage there, a lot. Now, again, my goal here in this edition of Coffee with the Goose is to report, give you facts, just kind of lay it out for you, let you guys make your own opinion, because I am not going to, I won't do it with the U.S. politics, and I'm certainly not going to do it with Philippines politics. Give you an opinion because, you know, who am I? That's just not my game. I have no dog in this fight, as they say. Now, a little reminder before we really get going. My wife is from the Philippines. Raquel is from the island of Cebu. And she, like myself, has been very blessed over the years to have met and worked with famous people. In this case, Cory Aquino, former president of the Philippines. We're going to mention her name here in a little bit. Anyhow, Bongbong, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. won the election by a landslide. I think he got like 24 million votes. His runner-up, the second most vote getter, got like 11 million. Now, he is 64 years old. He is a former senator in the Philippines. And by the way, the vice president is the daughter of the current president, Dutertes. So, what's the old song by The Who? Here comes the new boss, a lot like the old boss. But we're not going to get into, we won't get fooled again. No, I'm not saying that. What is Ferdinand Marcos's policy? What is his list of accomplishments that he's working towards? I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. There's one phrase or word that kept resonating throughout the campaign, and that was unity. And that's what he ran on, and it worked. He won by a landslide again, and I don't know what the future holds for the Philippines under the leadership of Bongbong. I have no idea. We will see, and we'll keep you updated. Let's talk about the history of the family now, shall we? And again, not going to give you my opinion, just giving you facts, okay? Ferdinand Marcos Sr. was president of the Philippines beginning in 1965 and served until 1986. Now, there's a lot of accusations, and I'm not going to say what's right, what's wrong, what's true, what's not true. That's not my job. But I will say this, he was a divisive figure because he was deposed. Now, that's a word we only use for dictators. He was deposed in 1986. Among the many controversies, I'll just use that word, was the martial law that he placed the country under after a series, and rightfully so in the beginning, after a series of bombings in Manila by communists, leading up to the martial law declaration in 1972. However, it remained in effect for 14 years. And eventually, the majority, or at least the most vocal of those opponents of Marcos, had enough by that point, and the Ronald Reagan camp. President Reagan in the U.S. said, you know what, Ferdinand, it's time for you to go. And we helped him and his family get out of Manila back in 1986. What happened? What was the one event that really led to what we call people power and the ousting of Ferdinand Marcos Sr.? Well, it was an execution, to be perfectly honest with you, or murder of a political opponent, Benigno Aquino. He returned to the Philippines, and there's video of this. It's very disturbing. He was sitting on the plane, and Marcos, I believe, was waiting for him at the airport. And he stepped off the plane and was gunned down. And that led to weeks of protests, nonviolent protests for the most part. It just kept growing and growing. People power, the movement was very powerful. And Marcos had to leave. And then Aquino's wife, Cory, ended up taking over the presidency after the murder of her husband. And I believe the airport in Manila was named after Benigno Aquino. And again, my wife, Raquel, had the honor of, when she was younger, working with Cory Aquino. So she got to know her pretty well. So that is the the gist of it. The Marcos family, very powerful family for many decades in the Philippines. And of course, you can't mention Ferdinand Marcos Sr. without mentioning his wife, Imelda. And, there's lots of controversy around her name. And they ended up escaping or leaving or being deposed in 1986 and took up residence in Hawaii. I believe Ferdinand died about 3 years later, 1989. And again, lots of accusations of corruption, brutality, theft. I've heard, now these are not my accusations, and I've heard words like that being tossed about, like dictator, strongman, things like that. You didn't want to mess with the Marcos family back in the heyday of Ferdinand Marcos Sr. Now, what can we expect now with his son's ascension to power? Again, I don't know. I do know this, that we expect Bongbong to continue many of the policies that Duterte instituted during his presidency. And he was very, very popular during his term. And one of the most effective and controversial policies under Duterte was the shutting down, for the most part. You're never going to completely eliminate it, but the shutting down or war against the drug trade. Drugs, unfortunately, and we see this in many countries, again here in the U.S. too, it's destroying many generations, especially when the powers that be, whether it be political or law enforcement, just turn a blind eye to it and let it happen, and then just try and treat the aftermath, which is horrific. Addiction and broken up families, and the pain is endless with drug addiction. So Duterte took it on head first. And I've seen different numbers being tossed about. The one that's I trust more than any is, I think, 64,000. And you may argue with this, but 64,000 people killed by law enforcement under the Dutertes regime in the effort to eradicate illegal drug trafficking in the Philippines. And it was very effective. The streets were safe for many, many years, and the vast majority of Filipino people were in support of Duterte's war on drugs. And from what I see and from what I've read and heard about Bongbong, he's going to continue that. Otherwise, I don't know. The other issue or policy that I'm concerned with, as we plan to go back to the Philippines maybe next year, is the vaccines. The war not on drugs, but the war on COVID. I don't know. It's eased. The restrictions have eased somewhat over the last year or so, but I don't know what we can expect when we get to the airport in Manila or Cebu City, wherever we're going to fly in, what kind of restrictions there are, and what, whether there'll be, they'll expect us to stand out in a hotel for a week or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, we'll keep you up to date. We, of course, wish nothing but the best for the Philippines people. Nothing but the best. And again, I'm going to say this just so you guys hear and understand my stance on all of this. When I talk politics, I'm not giving you my opinion. Not going to do that. Not going to praise or criticize Bongbong or his campaign or his leadership or his followers. Not going to do that. That's up to you guys. We've got our own problems here in the United States. Big problems. I think my wife and her friend are up. I can't understand. It's Tagalog or Visaya. I don't know. They're probably talking about the election too upstairs. But where was I? We expect to go back there next year. I don't know how life will change. Probably not much. And that's something we all need to keep in mind when it comes to politics. For the most part, no matter what country you're in, these guys, these men and women who are in power are not really going to have that much of an impact on your well-being, your, wealth or lack thereof. It's up to you to make your own life and to make your life better or worse, however you want to do it. And it's not up to them. Don't pay too much attention to the rhetoric when it comes to politics. We're experiencing horrible problems here in the United States. I'm sure other countries are too. Our country, to be perfectly honest with you, I love my country. I served it for 6 years. It's deteriorating. It's crumbling economically, socially, intellectually, and I said morally, didn't I? Yeah, we've got a big mess here in the United States. So for me to go criticize other countries and their leaders would be utter nonsense. So I ain't gonna do it. I got my own issues personally. So I'm just here to give you the news, let you make up your own mind on whether you support this guy and his campaign and his family. Talk amongst ourselves. We all have our own opinions. But the news is, and it's really not news, Bongbong is the new president of the Philippines. Ferdinand Marcos Jr., a landslide victory in the presidency. The news just announced, and we will keep you up to date if there's anything new on that. And, there's one other thing I'm concerned with. What's going to happen with Manny Pacquiao? He was running for president. Of course, that wasn't going to happen. Is he going to get back in the ring? I don't know. We'll talk more. We'll talk more boxing than we do politics. Okay. So anyhow, that's it for this edition of Coffee with a Goose. Thank you so much for joining me, and many, many thanks to you subscribers. Looking forward to your opinions, and I know you've got strong opinions on politics and anything else in Filipino culture. So look forward to talking with you again. Take care.